So what was the original terms then? So let's say you sign, go back to 2001, Amy Winehouse, or typically, similar deal like that. What is exactly the commercials?
Well, I mean, there were certain points in deal points back then which were sacrosanct. You always had to sign an artist for life of copyright in perpetuity, which in effect gives you ownership of those copyrights forever, in effect. You would generally have to sign an artist for a minimum of 5 albums, all on option. Maybe so you commit to making one album, but then you'd have the option for another 4 or 5. Frequently, it would go up to 6 albums on option. And the royalty rate was, for physical, 18-19%, around that kind of range. That was a sort of traditional regular deal. And that's now what's been eroded over the period of the last 10 plus years is, smart lawyers now go, well, listen, we're playing off the competition. There's 3 majors now in play. They're all competing largely for the same content. So we're not going to give you life of copyright. We'll give you term plus 15 years. So this will revert back to the artist. And, your physical royalty rate was predicated on the fact that there was a packaging deduction, there's a shipping cost in there. So you know what, on digital, we want 25 plus, and we want upticks built into that based on sales success. So those have changed again. So margins are being eroded. So, yes, there are still deals done which are in perpetuity. There are still deals where the royalty is that kind of level. But, artists now are looking at alternatives and going, okay, if I can start building, if I can find a relationship with an audience, if I can create heat in the marketplace at a low level, that means there is a value of a major. The value of the major may well be that they're very good at sort of fanning the fire. They're very good at throwing gas onto the fire, but not great at starting the spark. So if I can create the spark, then I go to a major to throw gas on it, but I can do it under my terms. So I can negotiate a deal which is going to be favorable to me. So that's kind of where the marketplace is, in my experience. And yes, of course, there are all anomalies that, every major will point to and listen, but we created this thing from nothing. Yeah, there's certain of those, but by and large, there is a whole sort of disintermediation between the artist community and the traditional label relationship. And I actually think that's a healthy thing. The fastest, I think I said this earlier in the conversation, but the fastest growing segment of the music business today is independent release. And that's what independent labels, that's independent artists releasing through third-party aggregators.
That's the Georgia Smith example.
That's the Georgia Smith route, and it's, there are artists, and again, I should say the argument on reverse of that, pro-major, is that majors will point to, well, you tell us a handful of global superstars that have come through this route, and they're right, they're next to none. But I think this is also the other thing of looking at the music business, that you could say, well, the majors are in the business of big global. Well, let me give you an analogy, which I always use for this kind of thing. So it's like the movie business. So, Sony Pictures, I use the example, are great at making blockbusters. They're great at making Spider-Man franchise movies, same like Disney with Marvel, brilliant at it, because it requires a huge budget investment. It requires a massive $100 million plus marketing budget, and it demands global understanding and global reach. But they're not very good at inventing a new franchise. Invariably, that happens through small incubators or management companies or smaller labels. So I think for mine, majors serve a purpose, but they serve a purpose at the kind of, okay, I've done the hard work for myself. I now need someone to really take it to the next level and throw some gas on the spark I've created. And that's good. And that's why majors will continue to exist in this place. But, the pressures will be constantly on them about how do they maintain their margins, how do they keep building the catalog when rights reverse back to the artist. So my view is, I think there always needs to be a 2-tier system in a major. There needs to be a proper incubation type system where we do really go in and provide a proper suite of services around very, very early stage artists. And then there is that marketing arm which says we know how to knock it out of the park because we understand big scale marketing campaigns. So it's a very 2 type of structures in there. I mean, I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about my own business here, but that's why I sort of created Twin, because I saw the funding gap in that very early stage incubation. And I saw there was an opportunity for artists at very early stages to gain traction in the marketplace and get a foothold and reach music consumers without a massive amount of investment. At which point they have choices. Once you've done that, and once you have an engaged audience, it doesn't have to be in the hundreds of thousands, it can be in the thousands. It's enough of a platform for you then to go, okay, I have choices here. I can either go to a major who can accelerate me, but then I'll have to sacrifice on my rights, or I can stay on the independent course. And that's where the change in the business is really fundamental.